John Daly is a Lydell Professor of Communications, a TCB Professor of Management, and a University Distinguished Teaching Professor at the University of Austin in Austin. He's worked with more than 300 companies and public agencies worldwide related to communications, leadership, and influence. John is also a scheduled speaker in our Master Black Belt class. He's been speaking to all of our classes for, well, longer than I've been with the company, 6-7 years. John has also worked with Lean Six Sigma programs in many different companies. We have brought him to you because this topic he's speaking of is so relevant to us doing our Lean Six Sigma work. We're going to start out with the webinar with a poll for everybody. We want to know where you are with relationship to Lean Six Sigma. Mallory's going to put the poll up. Are you an executive, an improvement lead, quality practitioner, maybe a Lean Six Sigma person? Please mark it up. I see people giving us answers. It looks like right now the Lean Six Sigma practitioner is winning the race, but it's really not a race. All right, we'll go about another minute, about 10 seconds here and close it. Okay, now if you close it and post it for all of us. You should be seeing now just under half of all of you are Lean Six Sigma practitioners, but it's nice to see people across the whole board. You will find this topic is relevant to anybody who's trying to drive change within a business. Now, John's going to start taking over here. We have to transfer control of presentation. There might be a slight hiccup, but John's presentation should pop up in a minute. There we go. John, please take it away.
All right, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is John Daly. I teach at the University of Texas. I teach a couple courses here. One is an MBA course on advocacy. What is advocacy? Advocacy is your ability to sell an idea within an organization. Most of us have had the experience of having great ideas, but we face huge resistance to them. Lean Six Sigma is a good idea. You wouldn't be doing this seminar if you did not think Lean Six Sigma was important. The challenge is not convincing people that statistics are important. The challenge is convincing them that Lean Six Sigma is important. Now, in some of your companies, everyone already agrees Six Sigma is absolutely vital. In some of your organizations, there's a lot of pushback or resistance to this day to that. But even when you have a lot of support for Six Sigma, you still have to sell projects to people. And oftentimes, you go to a plant manager, you go to a warehouse director, and you say, I want to do this project. And they say, we don't have the time, we don't have the people right now, we're working at 105%. The question is, how do you get that manager to buy into Six Sigma? How do you get that executive to buy into Lean Six Sigma? Here's the conceptual model I like to use. Many years ago, we felt that if you had a good idea, like Lean Six Sigma, people would automatically be inspired by it and adopt the idea. We now know that's not true. Indeed, what's essential is a second dimension called advocacy skills. Your ability to market those ideas to other people within your organization and also outside, by the way. This breaks into 4 boxes. Box number 1, somebody has an atrociously poor idea and they can't sell it. That's a lucky break for everyone in the company. Box number 2 is more frightening. Somebody has an idiotic idea, but they're able to successfully sell that idea. This is what companies spend huge amounts of money on stupid projects. All of us have been down this path before. We know it's dumb, but somebody pitched it to a CEO and executive, and we have to do it now whether it makes sense or not. I've been assured by Smarter Solutions that none of you have any bad ideas. So box number 3 is what we want to focus on today. You have an absolutely brilliant idea, change the world idea, but you can't sell that idea. This is where companies lose huge amounts of opportunities in the business world. This is where employees get cynical, burnt out, and some of your best leave because they simply can't have the kind of impact they want to have. Our goal today is to move from that box to essentially this box. Well, what you're doing is you have a good idea and you're able to sell this idea. Now, in less than an hour, we're going to talk about maybe 9 or 10 skills we know great advocates almost always demonstrate. Each of these skills independently will help you sell an idea more effectively, but the combination of them will really make you much more successful advocating for your projects. Now, let me give you a little history about this. For years, I've worked with some major companies on issues tied to influence, communication, leadership. One large company I worked for started a Six Sigma initiative probably 12 years ago now. They brought all these high-powered employees in, made them master black belts, sent them out to do good work. End of the first year, they brought all these master black belts back into the company, and they said, we trained you. We gave you 4 weeks of systematic training on statistics, on all the processes you want to engage in. What was the one thing we forgot to train you on? What was the biggest weakness in our training program? And every one of the 105 or 106 master black belts they had there, universities said the statistics were well taught. The procedures were well taught. What was missing was our ability, our skills to actually influence decision makers to get interested in projects. We're believers. We believe Six Sigma matters. And by the way, so do most of the managers. The challenge was, how do I get them to adopt a project? How do I get them to let me in? Influencing or advocacy with the good idea of Six Sigma were an absolutely wonderful combination. And they said in most cases, we weren't taught enough about the influencing, if you will, the soft side of Six Sigma. So today we're going to talk about skills we generally teach people if they want to be better influencers. First, and perhaps the most important in many ways, is you need to be trusted. Trust is absolutely vital in any organization. If I lose trust in somebody, I never get it back in many ways. Now, all of you have heard trust matters. Everyone's heard that 1,000 times. But luckily, we spend in academics a lot of time trying to figure out what trust really means. And we discovered there are 5 components to trust. Number 1, you're incredibly reliable as a person. Consider the following. You have 2 employees working for you. Employee number 1 is every day 16 minutes late. You can set your watch to them being 16 minutes late. Employee number 2 is on time one day, late the next, early the next, forgets to come to work the 4th day. Who would you rather work for you? I'd argue number 1. We need reliable people, and reliability leads to trust. How do you demonstrate reliability? Let me give you 2 quick ways to contemplate this. Number 1, finish what you start. Finish what you start. Proponents of Six Sigma have to be known as, I start a project, it always gets done. It's a great compliment. She gets work done. She finishes stuff. Secondly, learn to master your very small commitments. The cornerstone of credibility in your organization is not keeping your big commitments. Indeed, if you don't keep your big commitments, you won't have a job. So what people really notice is when you keep your itty-bitty, tiny commitments, they never anticipated you keeping in the first place. You know, if you know somebody who always gets back to you right away with email, who is always on time for meetings, somehow you trust them more than other people. Secondly, you want to be honest. Now, please don't misunderstand. There is mean honesty. I don't want you to be mean honest. But good honesty matters. How does one demonstrate good honesty? One technique, put a spotlight on your mistakes. If you make a mistake, let people know right away. You know, what kills many executives' careers aren't the crimes per se, it's the cover-up of the crimes. If you fess up right away that you made a mistake in your data analysis, people are going to get mad, but they're not going to get half as mad as if they reorganize an entire assembly line based upon your data and you find out the mistake. People who are honest, we trust because we know they're going to tell us things that's going to be accurate, right, and on time. You know, if you're a manager and you have 2 employees, one guy tends to cover things up, try to fix it on their own. The other guy tells you right away when they blow it, who are you going to give more rope to? Who are you going to let take bigger risks? Thirdly, you have to be a person of good faith. Now, I'm off to the Middle East next week for a couple of days. It'll be hard to explain there. But if most of you are U.S., good faith are Canadian, what's it mean? Don't be creepy. We don't like creepy people. Creepy people we don't trust. How does academics talk about it? The positive side of good faith or goodwill is something we call positive discretionary behaviors. It means you're a nice person. It means you do more than people anticipate you would do in a normal situation. Look, for example, I found out your car's in the garage tonight. If you ask me to drive you to the garage, that's polite. I'm supposed to do it. Well, what if I volunteer to drive you to the garage before you even ask for it? That's when you say, what a nice guy. We like nice people. Top execs in their biography always have that last paragraph called the nice paragraph. Board of this charity, member of this church, married so many years. If you read that biography, you automatically feel a need to trust that person simply because they're a nice person. 4, you're vulnerable. You have something to lose. If you're happily married and you trust your partner, in part, one reason you trust them is because you are indeed vulnerable. Either one of you can mess it up for both of you. You've got to show you have some skin in the game. There's some risk associated with it. Big banks in America today sometimes have a bad reputation simply because it seems like they can't fail. We can lose our savings, but they're not going to lose somehow. In truth, they do lose. Don't get that wrong. But the perception is they're invulnerable, and thus they don't have as much trust as some other groups. Finally, you got to be competent. What is competency? Let's explain it very simply. A neighbor of yours volunteers to help you fix a piece of electronics in your home. They come over, fix it, but it's never been the same since. They weren't able to do it the right way. Now remember, they're reliable people, they're honest people, they're faithful people, they're vulnerable people, but they simply couldn't carry through on what they committed to do well. You don't trust that person anymore. Trust is the first key thing. By the way, that's why lots of companies have found it's better to do Six Sigma organically. That is, use their own employees rather than having necessarily consultants come in and be Six Sigma consultants on projects. You need people like Rick to teach people how to do Six Sigma. But to actually conduct the project, you oftentimes want people in the plant who everyone trusts and knows and feels comfortable with. Trust is the first major component. Secondly, you need to be a better storyteller. Stories define us in many ways. We are narrative creatures. Most of you work in large organizations. Check me out. Most of you are very successful executives are indeed at heart storytellers. They come to a meeting, they tell a story. They come to a meeting, they relate a tale of something. Why? Because as humans, stories define us. Indeed, stories may be the glue that holds humanity together in some ways. What do I mean? All of you have families. What's a family? A family is neither biological nor geographic. A family is instead a collection of stories. The inheritance you give your children, I don't care if you win the largest lottery in the history of the world, won't be money or land. That goes away. What lasts is a set of stories, a collection of stories. If you do family reunions, you understand what I'm talking about. Family reunions are what? Storytelling sessions. Half the stories are true, but over 3 generations they become true. Organizations are stories, by the way, too. If you're new to your organization, you don't necessarily belong yet. Why? You don't know the stories. You and 3 colleagues go out to lunch one day. One of your colleagues who's been at the company for years says, do you remember when this happened? The other 2 people laugh hysterically, and what do? You kind of go he, because you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You don't belong to a company until you know its stories. If you've worked as an acquired company or a merged company, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As long as there are legacy stories from the 2 companies that merged independently, there is not one culture. You need to create one set of stories to create that culture. But stories do something far more important than that. Stories help people get it. Stories help people understand why something's important to you. You know, if you've been married for any length of time, you've probably discovered you and your spouse have the same fights over and over again. Indeed, you can number the fights if you want. This is topic number 3. We could fight for 3 days. We'll be fine after 3 days. Next time you're in the middle of one of those fights, try an exercise. Tell your partner a story. Say, let me explain why this is so important to me, and relate that story to them. They might just barely get it. Stories help people get it. If you work in a safety environment, you can show safety statistics, or you can tell a story of somebody who was actually injured. I can guarantee you people are going to pay much more attention to the story than they're ever going to pay to the statistics you provide people. Stories have this magical ability to transport us away. You go to a good movie, you read a good novel. You don't know where the time goes. It feels like it was only 15 minutes, it was an hour and 30 minutes. Stories have this magnificent ability to intrigue us and enmesh us. Good Lean Six Sigma advocates have to become great storytellers. Now, some of you already are, but what does it take to tell a good story? Here's an interesting discovery. Around the world, everyone tells stories just about the same way. That's why Disney works so well anywhere in the world, why Bollywood works just as well anywhere in the world. What's the grammar of a story? Take one, for example. Let's pick one, Nemo, Finding Nemo, that Disney show from a few years ago. Most of you have probably seen it. Setting, where does it happen? Under the sea, and under the sea, and in the dentist's office in Sydney, Australia. Main characters is Nemo. The Ditsy Fish's name is Dora. Dad's name is Marlin. It's a Disney movie. Mom gets killed in some horrible way at the beginning. Something weird happened to Walt's family. I don't know what it was. Characters. The characters have goals. Nemo to escape. Dad to find Nemo. Obstacles. The dentist kid. The sharks. Resolution. Nemo gets flushed. Lessons learned. Every novel you read, every mystery you see on TV has exactly the same structure. By the way, you can step that in terms of a project due on Six Sigma. Setting, where it happened, what plant, plant manager, assistant plant manager, character's goals to save money to become more efficient, obstacles encountered, resolutions, lesson learned. Six Sigma solves the problem. Any story works this way. What does it take to tell a good story? Number of characteristics. First of all, a good story has a point. A good story has a point. How many know people tell stories but you cannot figure out what the point of the story is? It's a joke without a punchline. Second, it's got to be told quickly. How many know people that tell stories but they go on too long? Indeed, if you've ever been sober around a group of drunk people, you'll understand what I'm talking about. They go on relentlessly and there's no point to what they're saying. Thirdly, people need to believe you care about it. Hopefully you do care about it, but as long as they believe you care about it, that's all that really matters. But they also have to understand what you're talking about. It needs to be inclusive. Many of you have had the experience of coming home after work one night, telling your partner something really funny happened today at work. You tell your partner and she goes or he goes, what's funny about that? If they don't get this sense of the story, if they don't understand what you're talking about, it's not going to be very much interesting. It's got some suspense. Now, I live in the perfect world of my university. The University of Texas is a wonderful place because everyone here stays about 19 years old. I just keep getting older. It's a wonderful environment. I can use the same stories every semester. You guys are totally screwed. You got to come up with new stories on a regular basis. Because once somebody hears a story and knows how it ends, it's an okay story, but it doesn't have the same impact as a new story. Every one of you needs to become story collectors. Details matter in a story, but many of you are technically oriented. My experience with technically oriented people is it's not they tell too little. They actually tell too much. They tell too much. How many scenes in a typical movie? Between 30 and 40. You've never seen a movie where the character sleeps for 8 hours. That just doesn't happen. It'd be a really ridiculous movie to sit there for 9 hours, 1 hour of action, and 8 hours of sleeping. It would make no sense. You don't need to see the character sleep. What movies do magically is by narrative, they have one scene, then another scene, then a third scene, and somehow your mind turns it together brilliantly. How do you find stories? People always ask stories because your stories ought to be personal. One way to find stories is ask, what do you value? One way to ask, what do you value? Anything that you value in this world, there's a story behind. If you believe in honesty, there was a moment where you saw honesty happen, you saw the consequences. If you believe in creativity, you've watched creative people work. If you believe in safety, you've probably seen somebody injured in your life. Understand, you need to find a story, simply think of the values you have. Say, I got no values, what do I do? If you don't have any values, a couple of options. Think of things that really bother you. Anything that really bothers you oftentimes forms the corpus of a story. So you despise bad customer service. I guarantee there's a story behind that. It's a railroad, a car company, an airline that messed you over. There's your story. Thirdly, if you can't have any bad experiences and you have no values, start using the phrase, for example. Anytime you use the phrase, for example, that generates a story. It forces you to come up with a story. Now, some of you say, John, I understand stories are important, but I really can't do it. What do you do instead? Collect interesting factoids that other people don't know. What are factoids? Little facts that surprise people, that make things more interesting. Take a tour of a museum or a park. What do you remember every time afterwards? The stories and the factoids. So one thing, my experience with Lean Six Sigma is wonderful. You get to know a lot about the company you work in that most people don't know. You've collected lots of factoids. You know, you watch the senior executive give a talk to the company. They'll tell a story or two. But they invariably throw out a little thing like, one thing I didn't know until recently is. It's a little factoid there too. Factoids and stories can be massively persuasive. I have a homework assignment for you next couple weeks. Minimally, I want you to collect some very interesting factoids about Six Sigma. I mean, I'll give you some IC statistics, for example. What's an interesting factoid? You probably all learned that correlation does not mean causality. Basic rule in statistics, correlation is not necessarily causal. When I see statistics, I throw out little factoids, like the number of prostitutes in the city and the number of churches in the city is almost perfectly correlated. Why is it? It's a spurious correlation. It's population size that matters. But you see, when you go there, people go, oh, I get it. The number of storks seen in the sky over Europe is correlated relatively well with the number of babies that get delivered. Why would that be? It's a spurious correlation again. If you lived in Europe in the wintertime, you understand there's not much to do outside. What happens? Storks come about 9 months later. There is a relationship, but it's not causal. When you give people little interesting factoids, they begin to understand, they remember those things. Now, if you want to be influential, this is the model we like to use. It's a very simple model, but a very powerful model. All right? First of all, you've got to create a need. If you want to be influential, the first step in persuasion is always creating a need. People want to resolve problems. People want to get problems taken care of. Very few people buy a vitamin at the airport if they're not feeling good. Lots of people will pay anything for an aspirin at an airport if they're not feeling good. The secret of change is, regrettably, pain. No pain, no change. Here's the problem. Some of you are working in companies that are doing great right now. They're doing fantastic. Why should we do Six Sigma at this point? You've got to come up with some pain statement. Indeed, if you've been in the Six Sigma world for a while, you understand Six Sigma tends to get bigger when companies are doing poorly and they need to save money. It gets people's attention when there's some pain. How do we conceptualize this notion of pain? It's a very simple one on the next slide. Answer the why now question. Answer the why now question. What's this? Anything important in your life that you made a change about, there's a reason why you made that change at that point in time. It might be you decided to move to another company either because of something or for something. There was your why now. You decide to get married. There's a why now for that. Your company decides to close one plant in one part of the country. Why should we do it now and not wait another year? Why did we do it last year? Successful influencers, successful advocates can always offer a very good answer to the question, why now? Indeed, the why now is your pain statement. It is your problem statement. Most of your companies, I'll make you a bet, if they can wait to do something, they'll wait. If they should have done it 5 years ago, why should we do it now? You have to be able to come up with a compelling answer to the why now question. That is your need statement. Second, you've got to offer people a plan. Here's the biggest mistake many of us make. We present a plan, a proposal, before we create the need, and we'll always get shot down. I'll bet most of you have been in meetings where somebody gets up and says, I want to do this, and people push back. We don't have the people for it right now. We don't have the time for it now. We don't have the budget for it. And they're going, wait. Let me explain why this is so important. If you really want to be effective, you never present your proposal until you've reviewed your need. You go to your physician's office. She examines you. She makes a diagnosis and says, you have this problem. Let me tell you what will happen with this problem as you get older or as you leave it there. And after she reviews all the problems, she'll say, we can, however, give you some medicine right now that will take care of that problem. They always create the problem in your mind before they offer you treatment. Thirdly, you got to show people benefits. Here's a question. What do people care about? Short-term benefits or long-term benefits? The answer is short-term benefits everywhere. I'll give you $50 today, or I'll give you $100 6 months from now. Give me the 50 right now. Who knows what's going to happen 6 months from now, right? You've got to provide decision makers with a quick win. No one wants to wait 2-3 years for a result. Six Sigma people oftentimes say the biggest quick win is we'll learn something, a learning. We'll understand the process better. Good, but you got to make sure people see there's a benefit. Final step in this persuasion model, maybe the most important because it's the one we don't think about very often. Listen carefully. People fear regret much more than excited about opportunity. People are more afraid of missing out on something than they're excited about getting included. If you have young daughters, for example, maybe young boys, but young daughters for sure, I suspect this has happened to you. You're planning your summer vacation. What happens? Your spouse says, what do you want to do? You say, I don't know, I live in Texas. It's really warm here in Texas in summertime. Let's go someplace cool. Let's go to Alaska. Ice the lilies sounds cold. Your lovely spouse says, yeah, but what do you think about Disney? You say, I don't want to go to Disney in the summertime. And your lovely spouse says, yes, dear, but if we don't go this year, our children will be too old to enjoy it next year. Right now, they think they're little princesses. They wear their crown. They have a wand. Disney parking lots are filled with hundreds of thousands of people who don't want to be there. But they're fearful of not missing out. What's this mean? In a company, we always talk about the cost of doing something. There's also a cost of not doing something that's equally problematic for people. There's a cost of not investing. So you go with a proposal in Six Sigma, they say, how expensive will this be? You explain it, and they say, that's expensive, and you can come back and you say, yes, but if we don't do it, let me tell you what's going to happen. That will give the person nightmares at night. You need to always focus at the end, what happens when we don't adopt our idea. Now, timing matters when it comes to influence. We spend a lot of time studying timing when it comes to influence. Generally speaking, in good economic times, when your company is doing well, you can have a better chance for arguing for a new idea. If your company is wealthy right now, it's relatively easy to bring Rick in and the Smarter Solutions team to talk about your company and help you out. What if you're doing difficult times now? What if it's very tough for you right now? You can still pitch any proposal. You just got to pitch it differently. So in tough times, people want to save money more than make money. You want to buy new PCs for your team. You don't say, I want to buy new PCs for my team because it makes it more profitable in bad times. What do you say? It will actually save us money, make us more efficient. In bad times, focus on the savings, not the making. Secondly, in good times, no one wants to take a radical risk. So sometimes you got to wait for bad times to actually pitch a radical risk. What's this mean? You're playing American football. You have the ball, rather your favorite team has the ball. There's 20 seconds left in the game. They have the ball and they're winning by 1 point. What do? Take a knee. They use up the clock. They don't take a risk. Now, on the other hand, you're losing by 1 point in the championship season, last game, make or break. You're losing by 1 point. There's 20 seconds left. You have the ball. What do? Hail Mary. Take the risk. There's nothing left to lose. So some execs understand you've got to wait for tough times to pitch a major proposal. In the whole world today, we have economic challenges. We have huge economic crises. The reality is many companies in their bank account have a lot of money, but they're still closing plants, closing offices under the guise of bad times. They're using the tough economic times to make people think it's the right time to close something. They couldn't have done that in good times. Keep it to the long term. Actually, Rick misled you when he said this seminar would end at exactly 4 o'clock. It's going to end in about 7 minutes because Rick has actually arranged for limos to come to every of your companies. They should be driving up right now. Every one of you is going to the airport in this limo, and a Gulfstream 5 jet will pick you up. We're all going to Bali for 6 weeks to continue this program, Hope Springs Internal. How many of you could leave right now for Bali for 6 weeks? A few of you are nodding your head. Sure, I could leave. Most of you are saying, I can't do that now. Could you do it 9 months from now? Sure, you could do it 9 months from now. One thing we discovered is oftentimes there's a lot of resistance if you want somebody to make a change right away. But if you get them to commit to making the change in the long term, they're more willing to do this. So you want to do a massive project in a facility. You go to the facility manager and say, I'd like to start tomorrow morning. He's going to say, I'm overloaded. Just don't have the time, don't have nothing. I got nothing. Instead, you say, I want to get your commitment to doing this project. I want to start it in 4 months. Everyone thinks they're going to have more time and more money in the future. If you've gone through SAP, you understand what I'm talking about. SAP never offers to install it tomorrow morning. They say 15 months from now. And everyone says, we'll be easy able to do then. When SAP actually happens, no one's ready for it. So get people to sign on to a project right now that will begin in 2 months' time. They'll think they have time. Know when you're in the budget cycle. Budget cycle is everything. So, for example, many companies' budget cycle ends in December 31st, okay, the last day of the year. Check me out if you have a company like that. A lot of extra money is spent on training those technology items in the last quarter, particularly in the last month or two. Because if you don't spend it, you're going to lose it. And indeed, you'll probably be punished next year for it also. Good advocates know how to time their ideas tied to the budget cycle. If you need money for a project, you need to make sure you ask before the budget is submitted. You also got to know where you're in the business cycle. What's the case about this? You know, inventory matters in companies. Seasonality matters in companies. If you work in a large retailer, Nordstrom's, Macy's, you don't want to propose to do a project, for example, in November or December. That would be crazy to do that because everyone's so busy that time. You propose it for January, February, March when nothing's going on. If you're in the chocolate business, you probably want to propose to do any changeover in July, in June, in August. There's not much use of chocolates in the summertime in the United States. You wouldn't propose a week before Thanksgiving, a week before Christmas, or a week before Easter. You've got to understand where you're on the business cycle. But you also got to create a sense of urgency for people. How do you create urgency? The biggest one is a crisis. Crises create huge opportunities to be influential in an organization. When a crisis happens, everyone pays attention. Some of you have an engineering background. Have you ever heard of a city called a town actually called New London, Texas? It's famous for one of the saddest things in American history. It was the only town in America that had no children for a couple years. Why? And there's a picture of it up here. A school blew up in the 1930s. The only school in town, grade school through high school. Every child and every teacher in that school died. It was a natural gas explosion. Now, for many years, people have been saying we need to add an odor to natural gas. Natural gas, when it comes out of the ground, has no odor. The proponents for adding an odor to it had no traction until that explosion. That's why we add a chemical, basically, to make sure we can stall that gas. By the way, if you have PE behind your name, professional engineer, it happened because of New London also. Because a lot of people were masquerading as engineers when in fact they were plumbers or technicians. PE became an important thing only after New London. So sometimes a great crisis in your company, a crisis in a plant, can create huge opportunities. What's another one? Interdependency. Every time Mattel makes a toy, Energizer is happy. Sometimes you don't sell Lean Six Sigma. You sell something that brings Lean Six Sigma with it. So if you really want new software for your PC, don't ask for a new PC. They're not going to give you one. Okay? No, excuse me. Don't ask for new software. They're not going to give you software. Ask for a new PC. What comes on the PC automatically? New software. Eisenhower's contribution to the American economy as president was the highway system. Congress balked. Too big of an expense. Eisenhower says, no, you don't understand. We're going to make huge money with the highway system. Motels, hotels, road taxes, suburbia, holiday inns, all of that happened because of the road system. You sometimes don't sell what you really want. You sell something that mandates what you're doing as well with it. Then you got to answer the with it question. What is the with it question? What's in it for them? Good advocates are brilliant people at determining people's with it's. Indeed, next time you're proposing an idea in a meeting, make up a matrix like you see on the slide. Write down every decision maker in the first column, and next to each decision maker, answer the question, what's in it for them? If you can't tell me what's in it for each person, you're not ready to present your idea yet. Couple observations about this concept. Number one, your with it may not be their with it. You've got to focus on what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. Years ago, people talked about with them's. What's in it for me? Completely wrong. It's what's in it for them. Focus on what matters to them. Secondly, different people may have very different with it's. Different people may have very different with it's. For example, one person's with it may be or enhance the reputation of the company if we do this project. Financial will make or save a lot of money with this Lean Six Sigma exercise. Efficiency will be more efficient. Status, you'll be famous, cover of a magazine. People will like you better. Productivity, safety, security, effectiveness, pleasing customers. There's an infinite number of with it. The ability to read somebody's with it is key. This leads to the third observation. Because different people have different with it's, it's almost always wiser to sell an idea door to door than it is in a meeting. Indeed, in your companies, the more important the decision is, the more it's been sold before the meeting happens. You never want to go to a meeting until you have the votes counted, in short. So really effective advocates will oftentimes work door to door. They'll go into one person's office, get their opinion, go to the next person's office, and they'll be able to kind of massage their idea to match the individual needs. Take the same proposal to a big meeting without any preparation. All of us have seen people lose control of their issue in that big meeting. They walk in wanting one thing, they end up having to do something else. What you want to do is sell retail. The other reason retail works well, that is selling one-to-one, is this. When people make a public commitment, that is in front of other people, they want to stick with it. When people make a private commitment, they're more likely to be flexible with it. So I walk into a person's office, they say, I really don't want to do your project. I can maybe convince them to at least think about changing. They're not publicly committed yet to saying no. But if they said that in a public meeting, they'd feel this need to be committed to that. Final observation, and perhaps the most important observation about with it. I ask people when I do programs in companies about this to write down the decision makers for their idea. What they almost always do is write down people who can approve their idea, which is fine. But here's the truth in most companies. Far more people can say no than can ever say yes. So when you think about decision makers in the future, please don't think of who can approve my idea alone. Think of who can stop my idea. More people in your company can stop your idea than can ever approve it. I do some work with an energy company in other parts of the world on compounds where they're drilling for oil and everyone lives there and they work hard together in that location. The warehouse guy doesn't have any formal power. But the warehouse guy can either find something quickly or say, I simply can't find it. You have to give me a while to find it. A secretary can make a day miserable or great for you based upon how they feel about you. So the trick is to understand not simply who can say yes, but who can say no. Now, some of you took a public speaking course in college. This may make you feel very good. Presentations are quickly going away in companies. Presentations are fading away very quickly. Nowadays, what happens in companies is you start making a presentation, and somebody will almost interrupt you immediately and say, look, I've already looked at your deck of slides. I just got a few questions. In today's world, the measure of your competency is not your ability to make a great speech. It is instead your ability to answer people's questions and objections. If you answer people's questions and objections flawlessly, people will believe you're competent. Look, I'm in a room with you guys. One of you asks a question, I fumble it. Another one's raised an objection. I can't answer that as well. It becomes a veritable feeding frenzy in that room. If I carry your objection well and answer your question even better, what do people say? Leave him alone, he knows his stuff. So we spent lots of time studying what it takes for people to answer objections well. Here's what the research says. Number one, you need to spend more time preparing for objections than you even do your presentation. Indeed, the mistake we make is we prepare our slide deck and we don't think what questions will be asked, what objections will come up. Secondly, you got to be the master of the follow-up. What's that mean? I answer your first question, I have to presume you're going to ask a follow-up question. So I got to be prepared to answer the follow-up question as well. If I fumble the follow-up, you wonder about me. But if I answer the follow-up question brilliantly, you say, this guy knows his stuff, leave him alone. Third, many of you in Six Sigma worlds have to make the same pitch over and over again. Thus, you already know the questions you're going to get. Be careful. Next time you're meeting with some people, ask yourself regularly, am I listening or just waiting to talk? The reality is most of us are waiting to talk. Don't do that. Fourth, use every concern as an opportunity to further your case. What's that mean? Never answer yes or no. Answer yes and let me tell you why. Or no, and there are 3 reasons why we don't want to do this. Anytime somebody asks a question or raises an objection, you can circle back to your argument at the end. Watch the Sunday morning political talk shows if you want to see experts of this. You ask the Secretary of State a question, she doesn't say no, yes, she says no, and there are 3 reasons why we decided not to do this. Or yes, and let me tell you why the administration made this decision. For negatives and the positives. What's that mean? Anything that somebody thinks is a negative, if you're clear enough, you can turn a positive. Good salespeople always know this. You take something problematic with your project, and what do? You call it a feature instead. So Six Sigma projects will take time. You're right, they'll take time. We need to analyze deeply. We don't want to make any mistakes. We don't want to fix something until we have a good diagnosis. We want to be accurate in what we do. That way we can actually really save you money. Six Sigma is going to mess up my project line potentially. Yes, it will, but you know, in the end, what you'll do is you have to clean things up, get them reorganized, make them more efficient. This is the moment you're looking for. You want to refurbish something. This is the perfect time to do it. You take a negative and turn it to positive. Share a message. You want to answer people's questions, but you want to get back to your message every time. Circle back. No is not no in most organizations. No is the start of getting to yes. So here's the technique. You want to work on a project in somebody's business. They don't want you in right that moment. What do you say? You say, well, tell me what the reasons are. Tell me why you're saying no. When they tell you the reasons for saying no, you can argue about each of those reasons. You can basically say, I understand all your reasons now. If I can actually resolve those reasons, can we perhaps talk yes again? Treat every concern as valid. I teach college, let's be honest. There are truly stupid questions that happen in college sometimes. But no student asks a question they know to be stupid. No one in your meetings asks you a question unless they have a really good reason for asking that question. Your challenge is to treat every question, if it's completely reasonable, as if there's a really good reason to do this. Finally, don't get in arguments with people. You get in an argument, you always lose. Instead, try to clarify. Now, on slide 15, there's an interesting thing you probably haven't thought about before. Every good advocate knows how to label their ideas. When you put a good label on an idea, you win. When you put a bad idea, you lose. People forget that wordsmithing the name of a project really does matter. So, 2000, 2008, the Bush administration was actually brilliant at labeling most of the time. The education campaign they had was called No Child Left Behind. If you disagree with it, voted against it, you're voting to leave kids behind. You can't do that. The Terrorism Act was called the Patriot Act. If you voted against it, what are you being? Unpatriotic. Smart people label ideas to make them palatable. Don't let somebody just call it. Six Sigma means nothing to anyone. Find a label that actually gets people's attention. So I worked with one organization, Six Sigma, and it was a big naval military organization. Six Sigma fell within the quality business. Quality is important, but they were not getting the funding they wanted. What they quickly did after about a year is consider that many of the projects they worked on were actually vital to our troops overseas. They were ensuring, for example, that measurements were accurate in metrology. They were ensuring shipments were getting to where they wanted to go just in time, vital shipment. So they changed the name from quality assurance to mission assurance. If you're in the military, you understand something. You can postpone quality, You can't postpone mission. Changing the name, increase their budget. Footnote, you can also kill an idea with a bad label. What's that mean? Sometimes in the politics of organizations, you think about a past project that exists in the company. An initiative was a miserable failure. Let's call the initiative the clock project for some reason, the clock project. If you want to kill an idea in the future, simply say, this is the clock project on steroids. Most people will pull back immediately. Labels can help an idea. They can also hurt an idea. If you don't believe this, there was a wonderful study done at the University of Illinois a number of years ago. In the University of Illinois, they have a restaurant called the Spice Box. It's run by the hospitality school. One week, every guest was told, our wine purveyor has given us free wine for the week because we've been a customer of theirs for 10 years. This wine purveyor wants us to give away for free along with some cheese. So you're lucky this week, free wine and cheese. When you sat down, the wine steward would come over and in some cases say what we're serving is a fine California wine. In other cases, the wine purveyor, wine steward rather, would say, we're having a fine North Dakotan wine. By the way, all the wines were exactly the same out of a box of cheap wine. End of the evening, you had to fill an evaluation. It's a university, of course you do. What happened was they found fascinating data. Look at that slide if you want. California wine tasted much better than North Dakota wine. Oh, wait a minute, it's the same wine. All the difference in the label. That might be to be expected, but here's the funnier part. Even the cheese tasted better. Labeling something really has a profound impact on organizations. Feature, function, benefit. What's this mean? Right now you can't see me, but I want you to imagine where I'm sitting. Sitting in front of a computer with a bottle of water in front of me. The bottle is plastic, by the way. It holds 16 fluid ounces, which is 473 milliliters. It's cylindrical in shape. It's clear. Did I pick up that bottle for any of those reasons? Absolutely not. What did I want? I wanted a refreshing taste. I wanted no calories, healthy stuff. I probably should, but I don't. I don't care what's plastic or paper or glass. I don't really care. I don't care what's 16 ounces or 19 ounces. It doesn't affect me one or the other. But here's the mistake a lot of people make, and I see this particularly true in the Six Sigma community. People walk into meetings to propose their ideas, and they say something like this to their bosses. What I have is a plastic object. It's cylindrical in shape. It holds 16 ounces. That's 473 milliliters. And decision makers are yawning and saying, who cares? What's a great advocate for Six Sigma? They'd walk in and say, how many of you are thirsty? How many want something incredibly healthy, you can swallow easily, take with you portability, and it'll make you healthier indeed, make you happier about yourself. You'll feel better about yourself drinking it. No one wants the features until they've been seduced by the benefits. Always convince people there's a benefit before you start talking about the features. When you do that, you almost always are more persuasive. Now, let's put a footnote on this because I'm a professor. It depends deeply on how involved people are. Highly involved people want features and benefits. Less involved people only want benefits. So here's the deal. A lot of young people starting off in their careers in large companies come up with wonderful ideas. They go to their immediate boss and says, here's an idea, I want us to do it. Boss thinks about it for a moment and says, not a bad idea, but we need the CEO's approval. When you go to see the CEO, what does she or he care about? Features or benefits? Only benefits. Make us money, not have any cost, make us look good in the marketplace, no legal liabilities. He or she only cares about benefits. They're not involved. Now, after you get the boss's approval as you're walking out, what's your immediate boss care about? Features, because he's involved. So if you're talking to a group of engineers about Six Sigma, all with a statistics background, yes, they'll want to know where you did analysis of answer regression and why you opted for that technology, why you opted for the post-hoc analysis using 2 keys as opposed to some Chappé's test. But the reality is most people just want the result. How will it save us money or make us money? That's the benefit they want. So you've always got to lead with the benefit. After people like your benefit, they may pay attention to your features. One last thing before we finish up today. In psychology for the last 10 years, we've been studying how it is that people are not necessarily logical nor rational. What we have discovered instead is that oftentimes people are not random, but they're consistently not rational. But in science, what matters? Consistency or rationality? And the answer is consistency matters a lot more. So we've actually studied lots of ways people are being consistently irrational. One is actually called the availability heuristic. What's the availability heuristic say? People will overweight vivid, memorable information. If you have a pen in front of you right now, pick it up right now. Or if you're not, just try this as a mind experiment. I want you to write down your favorite 3 letters of the alphabet. You can't be A, B, C, or X, Y, Z. That would be lazy. Just write down any 3 letters of the alphabet that you find kind of favorite letters for you. Now, we don't have participation in this webinar, but here's the bet. Most of you have at least 1 letter written down that appears in your name. Why? Because it comes to mind first. The most common letter in the English alphabet is E. I doubt many of you have E down, even though it's the most common one. But when I did this exercise many years ago, the first time, what I put down? I put J and D, John Daly. Those are the names, the letters that came to mind first. Trust me, J and D are not common letters, but they came to mind first. So how do we use this? One way we use this is very, very straightforward. Six Sigma, indeed, everything in a business is about numbers. Everyone cares about numbers. But numbers are meaningless unless you translate into memorable equivalencies. I do a 2-day program on this for NASA 4 times a year. The head of the astronaut corps a couple of years ago told me an interesting little factoid. She said the space shuttle, when it flies in space, goes 17,600 miles per hour. I said, damn, that's fast. She says, John, that's incredibly fast, and you have no idea what it means. I said, none whatsoever. We see a sunrise and a sunset every 45 minutes. We go 5 miles a second. What got my attention more? 17,600 miles per hour or sunrise, sunset every 45 minutes? In the United States, we have an organization called the Center for Science and the Public Interest. It's a food advocacy group. They want us to eat healthier foods. They wanted to dessert foods a few years ago. They told us Cinnabon muffins had 670 calories and 34 grams of fat, equal to a McDonald's Big Mac plus an entire hot fudge sundae. Person going to say, well worth it. But what gets your attention more, calories and fat or equivalencies? How about Mrs. Field's double fudge brownies? 420 calories or 25 grams of fat. Equal to 2 slices of Domino's extra cheese and pepperoni pizza plus 2 packs of butter. Now this may ruin some of your dinner plans this weekend. I do apologize. Cheesecake Factory Original Cheesecake. Now this is the blandest cheesecake to provide. 710 calories, 49 grams of fat, equal to a pizza personal pan pepperoni pizza plus not 1 but 2 entire Dairy Queen banana splits. That's a lot of food. Eat up. What gets your attention in every case? Calories and fat or the equivalencies? So if you say this project will save our company $1 million this year, I don't know what that means. Save us $1 million, which means we'll be able to keep 15 people employed we have to let go otherwise, gets people's attention. You always want to bring home the point with a striking, vivid equivalency. There's a lot more we could cover. I do, as I said, a whole program, a whole class on this. Okay, did a book on this. Why don't we do this? Let's see, Rick, if there's any discussion at this point, because we have about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Well, I don't think we've had any questions come across that were about the subject. I think one thing we could talk about, John, is the reason why we brought you on to give this webinar, your book.
There you go. I recommend it highly. It makes great holiday presents for families and friends.
Well, what John's been talking about this whole time, it's close to the lesson he gives in our Master Black Belt class. But this and way beyond what he's talked about is written in the book, Advocacy, that it's come out. When did it come out? Early this year, John?
Late last year.
Late last year. I mean, I recommend the book to anybody who's involved in trying to get their job done as a Lean Six Sigma practitioner, or really anybody who's trying to drive change within a business. There's secrets in there that are well worth what you pay for the book, I would say. I think that's how it is, Dan.
Well, thank you very much, Rick. I've appreciated this.
All right. Mallory?
Thank you, John, for taking the time to join us and give this presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We do have an exit survey when you leave the webinar, so please take the time to fill that out. We do appreciate your feedback. And again, thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us.
And stay in touch.